You're listening to the Travis Makes Money podcast presented by GoHighLevel.com. For a free 30-day trial of the best all-in-one digital marketing software tool on the planet, just go to GoHighLevel.com/Travis. What's going on, money makers? Welcome back to the Travis Makes Money podcast, where it's our mission to help you make more money. Today on the show, we're going to be talking a little bit about investing with my new friend, Robert J. Finlay. Rob is a Wall Street Journal best-selling author of 2 books now. He's an entrepreneur and commercial real estate investor who's built and sold 4 different companies. He's a father of 4, sought-after speaker. Rob is known for his forward-thinking solutions, strategic insights, and dedication to mentorship and education. And that is reflected in his new book that he just came out with that just hit Wall Street Journal bestseller list in its first week of being released, which is awesome. And that book is called Hey Dad, Everything You Should Have Learned but Didn't. So we'll have plenty to talk about on the show today. But before we dive in, if you're an entrepreneur or solopreneur using multiple softwares for marketing, email, forms, calendar, SMS, reputation management, et cetera, you're probably doing it wrong. You owe it to yourself to check out High Level's all-in-one platform for marketing and automation so that you can get back to focusing on what you know how to do best. They've created an amazing tool that is somehow as simple as it is capable. So join over 3 million other businesses and go to GoHighLevel.com/Travis for a free 30-day trial. That's GoHighLevel.com/Travis to see what High Level can do for you. Rob, what's up, man? Thank you so much for taking the time to join me on the show today.
Hey, Travis, thank you so much for having me. Hopefully you didn't just hear my phone ring. I was scrambling to turn it off. And of course, it's actually one of my kids. So
I did not hear it. I did not hear
okay,
it. So
perfect.
yeah, you were
Perfect.
quick on the draw, turning that thing on, do not disturb or whatever. So I appreciate you for coming on, man. There's plenty of ways to take this conversation, but let's start with how I typically start out and tell me how you made your first dollar ever.
Well, I mean, my first dollar ever was working for somebody. So, but I think you're really focused on entrepreneurs. So, my first job was where I started my own company. I was 29 years old, had I think 3 kids, not a lot of money to my name, but I was making a good living working on Wall Street. And I decided, because I wasn't the smartest person, I thought it'd be a good idea to risk everything and start my own business. And so at 29 years old, I mortgaged everything I could, got rid of any 401k, stopped 529 plans, everything, just put everything I could into running this business. Very fortunate, paid off. But since then, I got the bug, and over the past 25 years, I think I've probably started 15, 20 businesses, of which, they all go different places. I've had 5 really good, strong exits. I've got a handful that I still keep and are still growing. So just one of the passions I have of being an entrepreneur.
Let's talk about the failures in
Oh,
there. Inevitably, there is every entrepreneur, especially any entrepreneur that wins big, has
yeah.
had multiple failures under their belt. Can you tell me about a time where you were wondering why you decided to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, all the time. I think, and actually, it's funny. I talk about this quite a bit. I think there's a couple of times where it's really difficult to be an entrepreneur. And I think the first time is really difficult is obviously starting. But I think from an emotional roller coaster, some of the down points are actually when you sell your first business and you actually have success. And I think that's not a lot that, we're not talking about that a lot. I mean, everybody, because, people are like, oh, poor you just sold your
Yeah.
company and you made all this money, boo-hoo, cry me a river.
Yeah.
Um, but for a lot of entrepreneurs, your business is what defines you,
Mhm.
and you put every bit of blood, sweat, and tear into it. And one day you're going to turn around and you're going to have to redefine yourself. And I think that's one. And the second thing I think is also not as maybe publicly displayed, but I don't know if you lose a little bit after your first successful exit, right? It's like, do you ever get that feeling like, ooh, will I make it? Will I not make it? And so I think those are things that come up all the time with starting a business. But with the failures, a lot of it is just didn't have the mental aptitude for it. Didn't
Mm.
have the didn't have the yep, I'm willing to give my life, my blood, sweat, and tears into it to make it the success that I need to. And that's just me, just being lazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's got to be something that ties it to some deeper sense of purpose or something like, because the obstacles are inevitably going to come up.
Right.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and how big.
Right.
And if you don't have something on the inside that is telling you that this is where you should be, that it's just going to be really easy to quit. It's going to be easier
Yep.
to quit than it is going to be to keep going. And that's one thing that I talked to with some beginner entrepreneurs, people that are looking to start a business, or maybe they've made money somewhere else and they're like, oh, I just want to have a business that's going to pay me some money and build in some good quote unquote passive income for me. Can you debunk that idea for me?
Yeah, tell me, I was just going to say, where'd you tell them to go? Because I want to find that, right? I mean, it's, look, and I think we talked about this before. Like one of the things and part of my business now is I start businesses and all that stuff, but we're also a venture fund. And so we invest in startups. And I'll tell you, one of the things that just drives me crazy are these people, and I call them entrepreneurs. These are the ones that have good jobs with a bank or with somebody else, and they want to have that, right? They want to have the freedom of their having their own business and maybe the economic successes, but they don't really want to sell their soul to the devil to get to it. And so I call them entrepreneurs. And I actually had the other day I had somebody come up and they had this term sheet. They had an idea of a business, free revenue, not even really anything there. And the guy had the gumption to write in his demands were, as I want to be the CEO and I expect to have the accoutrements of a CEO. I was like, dude, you're in the wrong place, buddy.
For a
You know,
pre-revenue startup, yeah.
right? For like what accoutrements are you? Yeah, okay. If you just created the next Chat GPT and all that stuff, but you're just trying to enhance something else. And so it's just it just drives me crazy.
Yeah, it's a pipe dream,
Yeah,
and it will ultimately kill your business is the thing. So and sometimes people think that they can just throw money at that problem.
yes,
Like maybe they've been in the workforce for 20 years and they have 500,000 saved up or whatever, or they mortgage their home or something, go get a second and pull cash out from their equity. And then they just go, oh, but I got 400,000. So I'll just put this into it and it'll be fine. And it's like, well, that's a really quick way to lose all of your net worth overnight, is to assume
absolutely.
that the money is going to solve the problem of having to work in the business, because it's absolutely not going to do that. In fact, it'll probably actually make it worse for you, because you are throwing money at problems instead of figuring out how to solve those problems from a point of constraint. And that's really where the magic of the business happens, is when you're forced to figure out problems because you don't have the money to solve this problem. And so you have to take a day and go like, okay, well, we don't have a ton of money to go acquire new customers. So how are we going to acquire new customers?
Right,
Let's
right.
think about this. Where does our customer hang out? How do we get in front of them? Who can we collaborate with? How do we, and then you build these engines that bring customers into the business, that were free, that just required sweat equity. And that actually becomes the secret sauce of the business moving forward. And then you can pour some fuel on the fire with the money that you're making in the business. Like just throwing money at the problem is not going to solve it.
But I think you identify what I think is the one of the fundamental problems and difficulty for an entrepreneur is prioritization or being able to prioritize,
Hmm.
right? And I think that's a challenge, right? Because as an entrepreneur, you're wearing every hat in the world, right? I was the bookkeeper, I was the salesperson, I was the marketing person, I was actually fulfillment and everything else. And you sort of lose that how to prioritize what's really critical to the business.
Hmm.
And I think that comes back to setting. I've gone through a lot of training on it, which is how you set your time. Like focus first thing in the morning, setting up and really focusing on the things that actually will move the needle, right? Every business will have things that you don't want to deal with, but you have to, that will change the business. That comes down to that prioritization, being able to prioritize.
Tell me about the different businesses that you brought through all the way to exit. What were those businesses in what industries and what did they do?
Yeah, so one of the main themes with our business is commercial real estate, right? So
Okay.
that's our market, right? So we focus in on the commercial real estate market, and that's that could be everybody who owns these REITs that own a lot of properties to drive down the street. The person who owns that shopping center or that person who owns that apartment complex are usually they're made up of small and medium-sized businesses, really. And so we've made our living by providing goods and services, so goods, technology solutions, and other things, and services to help those real estate owners make more money. Like
Oh,
that's all we
interesting.
do, right? And we do it through verticals such as our capital markets, like making sure that they're optimizing their debt properly, that they're paying attention to where interest rates are going and how to capitalize on volatility in interest rate markets because debt is such a huge component of commercial real estate. It's not just the asset, it's asset plus the debt is actually what creates return. So we're really helping them with that. We do a lot of compliance software through our entity management software where we help them manage the legal entities and things like that. We do risk management. We're doing software, asset management software. So all of those services, but it's all predominantly around the commercial real estate space. Since 2000, it's the same thing. Or my target market has not changed. My delivery to them, the things I've delivered to them, have changed with the times. And that's one of the things that we've been very fortunate. We've been very good in spotting opportunities in the market and understanding that trends and who our customer is. I'd be scared to be a consumer marketing company because I have no idea what the masses are going to do.
Hmm.
But I really know that, like my commercial real estate people, I pretty much know that persona, right? I'm really
Yeah.
focused on personas, so I know that they like single action solutions, right? They don't need the toolkit. You were talking about this software on your intro. Like that sounds pretty cool, right? You can do all this stuff all together. That's a hard sell in commercial real estate because they just want that one fix. They can consume it, they can and utilize it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and just a quick aside to promote that company a little bit more. The cool thing about High Level is that you can actually white label their software and repackage it and select different tools and then use it for like a niche specific industry or something like that. So you could take it and then build a version of it that's for commercial real estate only that only need these like three functions of the tool and then use it, sell it as your own thing. And you could actually turn it around and sell that as a separate entity from the company, which is pretty cool.
No, that's cool.
But yeah, the uh, the idea of sticking to one niche and then just solving different problems in that niche, I mean, that's a great strategy for continued success because, like you said, the avatar hasn't changed in 20 years. It's just the
Right.
service that you provided them changes. But what's good about that is that you already have the relationships from the last one. So it's
Right.
like, hey, you already are using this other thing that we had, but we're no longer doing that. That got sold, and you can work with that company still. But we have this new thing that we're doing that's going to help streamline this other part of your business. Would you also be interested in checking that out? That's a pretty strong way to get some really good social proof early on that you're building something that's quality and that's worth having.
Yeah, and you get to pull from different industries. I think that's what's really nice, right? I think that's part of the entrepreneur is you can be really smart, right? And come up with like the widget, right? I mean, like, hey, who's just sitting out there saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to create Facebook. Like, like there's creative geniuses like that. But there's also a really good entrepreneur is just taking something else from somebody else and applying it to the industry that they know.
Mm.
And that's all we've done. It's not like I just created this phantom AI or quantum, computing. I just saw, oh, wait, this is interesting. This works over here in this industry. What if we applied that to commercial real estate?
Mm.
Package it, make it a little different, tweak it a little bit. And so that's what a good entrepreneur can do.
So you mentioned you have the fund now. So are you also buying multifamily or commercial real estate?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I buy. Yeah, I buy my own account. We have a real estate fund as well. So yeah, we do buy real estate because it makes us. How else am I going to know if I'm not my chief customer,
Yeah.
right? And I'm the number one complainer of our software and our services, right? It's like,
You're
you know,
solving your own problems
right, we're
essentially.
solving our own problems because we approach things like that. I think it's very hard, and I think all entrepreneurs sort of face this. There's a point in your life as an entrepreneur where you have to let go of and you have to share,
Hmm.
right? And you have to sort of, and somebody's going to come in and maybe have a change in direction. You really need to be there to be on top of that, to make sure that your vision holds true. And I think that's been the dynamic for us is where we own real estate. We want to make sure that, and everybody in our organization, by the way, our product teams, our service people, they all speak real estate first because we need them to be able to talk to our customer in the
Yeah.
way that our customer understands.
Where do you see commercial real estate going in the next 12 to 18 months? From what I understand, it's kind of getting squeezed at the moment. There's probably going to be a lot of operators that are losing deals or foreclosing. Interest rates are going up. A lot of people have these short term 3 year loans with options that aren't being allowed to be exercised by the bank without a significant increase in interest rate, which
Yep.
just destroys their cash flow.
Yep.
What are you seeing as trends in the industry? Where do you think it's going?
Look, there's opportunity in commercial real estate. There's always opportunity in commercial real estate. I think it comes down to, and you can invest. The nice thing about commercial real estate too is you can invest all parts of the capital stack, right? You can be a passive investor with somebody who knows what they're doing. You could go out and buy your own building and try to operate it yourself. But the risk becomes a little bit more exponential, right? But it's the risk return dynamic. I think commercial real estate is a fantastic investment. I think I've never been one to say buy a house. I've been one to say buy buildings, buy real estate, buy a two family, buy a three family. These are really good things. I think where you get in trouble is not all real estate is real estate. It's like people talking about equities, like buy equities. Okay, well, what are you going to buy in equities? Am I going to buy Amazon or am I going to buy this, crazy beta, high risk stock? And so it comes down to, you're buying equities, but you really have to be comfortable and you have to know what you're doing. But I love commercial real estate,
Yeah.
a huge opportunity.
And we'll probably, when it's getting squeezed like that, for strong operators that know what they're doing and have a long history of knowing what they're doing, there's going to be even more opportunity for people like you to come in and swoop some of these deals up.
Well, I think, but it comes back to where our whole business is focused is had you I go back to that dynamic in commercial real estate, very powerful. So no matter who's listening, if you ever look at real estate, commercial real estate as an investment, there's really two aspects. There's two levers that somebody can use to make money in commercial real estate. There's the asset lever, which is the real estate itself, right? Raise rents, decrease expenses, makes more money. The other is debt. And the debt is how do you properly optimize that debt with the projected cash flows of the property? If you don't have those two together, you're not going to create really good returns.
Mm.
And so a lot of the people that got in trouble, that are in trouble today, are the ones that did not focus on that debt component. They're good at the real estate. They bought the real estate. They had a great business plan for the real estate, but they neglected the debt. And it's just our industry. Our industry is always pretty much you buy a building, you go put long-term financing, or it was really cheap back then, short-term financing, let it go. And that's just not a it's not a that's not a it made sense at the time, but wasn't the best business decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Rob, I talked to you about interest rates and real estate and business all day, but I do want to mention your new book, Hey Dad. This is obviously outside of the realm of entrepreneurship and all the things that you do in your quote unquote day job. So why this book? Why now?
Well, so I wrote the book because of my 28 years of experience as being a father. I have four kids who are going through this adulting stage, and actually it was a late night phone call from my daughter. And so, as any parent can attest, a midnight or later phone call from one of your kids puts fear, right? I mean, that's heart rate is elevated. Jump out of bed, grab my phone. What's wrong? Like, can I put the green gas in my Jeep? And I start to think a little bit. I'm like, wait, what? Heart's racing. So I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
not sure if I heard that right. Because maybe,
Yeah.
I
Right.
said,
Because
what?
you're being chased by
Right,
somebody who wants to kill you.
right. You're on the side of the road and I've got to, all this stuff. No, she was at a gas station and they didn't have any of the regular gas. All they had was diesel, which is
Yeah.
the green handle. And when she meant green gas, she meant diesel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dear Lord, no, child, do not put the green gas in your Jeep. And it's like, okay. And so we survived this episode, but I was so bothered by the fact, like, have I not told my kids this?
Mm.
And if I haven't told them this, like, what else haven't I taught them? And it goes back, then you start to do self-reflection, right? As any parent will do. It's like, did I spend so much time focusing on the job, the business, the career, the business? Like, that's what defined me. Did I focus on that and not focus on keep teaching my kids the foundational stuff that they need to learn to be a good adult?
Mm.
And so I said, you know what? I enjoy writing a book. I just finished writing a book, The Beyond the Building, which was real estate innovation, real estate focused. Like, I enjoy doing this. Why don't I just write another book? And so I did it. And but what's interesting though, from a similarity of entrepreneurship, actually a lot of it is, it's the same stuff. Know how to network, know how to talk to people, know how to promote yourself, right? Know how to be a good human. Yeah, all these things are sort of it's a very there's a lot of similarities to the two.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, congratulations on writing another book. How did you find the process for writing these two different styles?
So the second one's a lot easier because now you sort of feel like you're not just you know, you feel like you control the process a lot more. On the first one, I was just so grateful that somebody would actually like pick it up.
Mm,
Like they could do whatever, right? Yeah, publisher like, yeah, change this, get rid of this, and you know, do all this stuff. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll do that. Your second one, you're like, no, this, and especially for one where it's like, this is really for me and for fun. Like, no, I'm not, this is the way I'm going to do it. This is the way I want it. And yes, if there's commas out of place or, sure, that kind of stuff, go crazy for it. But changing
the
concepts
content.
and
Yeah.
things, yeah, no, you're not going to do it. And so made it better.
So they're both traditionally published then.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. How did you find that process working with publishers?
Horrible. Horrible.
Horrible.
Yeah. I look, there's a, I hate to tell this to people, but the glamour of writing books and being an author is not
What it's cracked up to be.
what it's cracked out to be, right? You know, if you're a Patterson or you're, Stephen
Yeah.
King, like,
John
sure,
Grisham. Yeah.
John Grisham, yes, go for it. It's wonderful. You sell millions of copies, right?
Yeah.
For all the rest of us, we spend all this time doing it, go through a publisher who you probably will have to pay to publish it, right? And then that's it. Then you have to market it,
Yeah.
right? There's no, like, there's thousands of books that came out, right? There was just in this past week, there was over like, I think it was like 500 books that hit Bookscan, which is like the big thing, right? And it's like a lot of books, right? How do you compete with that? You have to market it. And Amazon's not going to market you because unless you start selling, your publisher's not going to start marketing you until you start selling. So
Right.
it's like, so now you're becoming a bookseller and your publisher gets a lot of money. So not to say that don't do it, but just understand why you're doing it. That's all.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Understand the back end play because it's probably not going to be for the money.
Right. If you
Yeah.
have a legitimate business, and I think which is Beyond the Building, was a business book,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Specific to my audience. And my go-to-market strategy for that was very specific, right? I gave it to my customers,
Right.
right? And so that was a very specific tool. So you don't think about it. And in that case, I think a lot of entrepreneurs should do it because you can self-publish and you can do all that. And that's
Mhm.
a lot easier, a lot of, a way to go.
Yeah. It's a lead gen credibility builder business card almost.
Yes.
Yeah. It'll
Yes.
open the door to places that a regular business card won't get the door open for.
Right. As long as you go through the effort and create a good book. I mean,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people out there like, oh, I'm just going to go to Chat GPT, have it write me a book, and then, go to Amazon self-publish and go do that. And that's people just, I don't know. The way I felt about it is if you're not going to do a good job, if you don't really care, find something else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that advice, man. I appreciate you for writing the book that you wanted to write rather than just writing another book to make a little bit of money. I think that's really cool. I think that's a topic that needs to be talked about a lot more and is kind of similar to the topic that I'm currently writing about right now, which is the stuff that I want my kids to know if something ever happened to me. So, Rob, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Besides picking up a copy of the book, Hey Dad, where else can people go to get more from you?
Yeah. So you can go to my website, which is robfinlay, Finlay.com. Follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn and all these others, but that's probably the best way.
robfinlay.com, Finlay, robfinlay.com to go check out everything that Rob's got going on. You can find all the social links there, probably find the book there as well.
Yep.
Rob, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you taking the time. Everybody else listening, remember, money only solves your money problems, but it's a little bit easier to solve the rest of your problems if you got some money in the bank. So let's solve that problem first here on the Travis Makes Money podcast. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Catch you next time. Peace out.